Hi, my name is Adriana, and for my Excel midterm project, I'm going to describe how I created these two dashboards pertaining to the sales of car seats. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of how my dashboard looks, and then I'm going to go into how I created it. So first and foremost, you'll see that I have a quick index here that kind of flips between the tabs as opposed to clicking down here. And if you scroll down, I have three pivot charts. So for this particular dashboard, this refers to the demographics of the customers. So I have age of customers. Then I have shelving location total, and I'll describe what that means later. And then I have the education level. So if I click to the second dashboard, I have the top 10 sales of a particular car seat sale, and then I have the various metrics pertaining to those particular ID. So for instance, for store 358, these are the metrics for them. So total sales, total advertisement, competitor price, and manufacturer price. Now let's just go ahead to the raw data. And you see here I have 12 variables here. So the first variable refers to the store ID number. So I have 400 different locations here, and each location has a number. So for instance, we have store 1. The next variable is the sales in thousands. So store 1 sold $9,500 in car seats. The next I have comp price, and that refers to the competitor price. So for instance, store 1 has a location that's competing with them, and they're selling their car seat at $138. Next is the income, and that's the average income of the customers that came in. So of the 9,500 car seats that was sold, the income of those customers on average is about $73,000. Next, I have advertisement, and that's the amount of money in thousand that was put in to advertise for the car seats. Next is the population of the surrounding area. So for the location for store 1, the population is 276,000 people. Next is the price or manufacturer price at that particular store. So in this case, store 1 is selling that car seat for $120, as opposed to what we said earlier, the competitor store is selling it at $138. Next is the shelf location. So like all retail places, you have different qualities. Sometimes you have really high-end qualities, and you have your okay, and then you have, good ones. So here I have 3 different indicators. We have bad, good, and medium for the shelf location. Next is the age, and that's the average age of the customers, as well as the education level of those customers. If we skip over to urban, this refers to whether the location is in an urban area or not, and then US, whether the store is located in the US or not. This particular variable, school level, I created this one myself, and that has to do with personal preference. So for instance, we have education at 17. For me, that's a little weird. I'm used to either saying college or maybe even 10th grade, but we all know that is high school. So instead of saying the 17th grade, I did an if statement. So basically what this says is, if the education level is between 8 and 13, I'm going to say that this particular education level is high school. But if it's higher than 12, that means they're in college or higher. So for instance, instead of saying the 17th level of education, that refers to college or higher, as opposed to the 10th grade, which is high school. So if we get into our dashboard, the first thing someone may want to know is the demographics of the customers. So first, I started a pivot table that refers to the age of the customers of the car seats. So here you see I have the age, the average income, as well as the average price of the car seat. Now I just want to note that when I first created this pivot table, this age interval wasn't there. It was actually ungrouped from the ages of 25 all the way down to 80. And for me, that's too much. I'd rather have it compact, so I'm going to group the ages by right-clicking, go in the group, and having them at intervals of 10. Of course, you can change them if you need be, but 10 is fine with me. So now we have the age interval of 25 to 34, 35 to 44, and so on. And here we have the average income of each interval, as well as the average price that they bought the car seat at. Now with this pivot table, I created this first pivot chart here. And here you can see again, you see the age interval, and then the column refers to the average income, and then the line refers to the average price at which they bought the car seat. So the next pivot table that I created refers to the advertisement. For me in particular, I want to know that if a store is located in a particular location, or is the store willing to put more money into advertising it? So for here, we have the location bad, good, and medium, and you can see the sum of advertisement throughout all 400 locations that was spent on the car seat advertising. So you can kind of see if it was in like in a medium one, they spent the most. However, if it was in a bad location, then they spent the least. And again, this is in thousands. If we go back to our first dashboard, you'll see on this pivot chart, again, we have the bad, good, and medium ratings, and you can see the total amount of advertisement that was spent at those locations. Okay, so for the last chart here for education, I did a pivot table that refers to the education level. So again, I used my variable school level because education seemed a little too much. And then here I wanted to use the US variable as well as the population size. So here you can see for a total of college or higher, we have about 66 million, because again, this is in thousands. However, 25 million is not in the US, but 25 million, but 41 million is in the US. And then going back to our first dashboard, you see that I have a column chart that refers to this. So the blue represents them not being in the US, and the yellow represents being in the US. And then we have the college or higher or high school. And just a quick analysis, you can kind of see that for college or higher, most of the customers were in the US. So this is the first dashboard I created. And then I inserted slicers for each of the charts so that I can see relationships between all of them. So for instance, if I'm only concerned with college or higher, I'll just click that slicer, and you can see that the charts changed a little bit. So if we scroll down here, now I'm only looking at college or higher. And then for the shelving locations, you see bad, good, and medium, and the total advertisement, as well as the average income and price. I can also do the same thing for just high school. And you see, again, it changes, which is kind of cool. Okay, so for the next dashboard, I decided to look at just the top 10 sales since there's 400 different locations. It's a little bit much, so try to, narrow it down a little bit. So the pivot charts here, top 10 seat sales, as well as the different metrics for a particular location. So for instance, location 194, you see it changes, not too much for the competitor price, but you see for total sales, they have about, again, this is in thousands, so this looks like about $10,000, but for total advertisement, looks like maybe $5,000. So they spent less advertisement than they did in sales, which is good. That means they made a bit of a profit. And how I created this, I just did a separate little analysis here. Oh, I should have used this. Sorry. Actually, let me go back. Click this, dashboard prep. So here, I just only have the top 10 sales, so I can do a little bit of analysis on here. So here I have the sales based on the top 10, and that's where this particular chart came from. So here you see the store location as well as the top 10 sales. And then for this second one, you see the different metrics. Here, this just basically takes a particular location and does a VLOOKUP, as you can see here, based on whichever location I'm looking at. So for instance, 194 is a store location. It does a VLOOKUP off of this table here to see the different metrics. So for instance, here we have 139 for the competitor price, but 7,000 was spent on the advertisement. So here, just taking a look at it again, you can make your dashboard look as pretty as you want. I tried to make it look even. Clean lines seem to make it look nicer. And dark, I don't know, seems nicer as well. And then obviously this is optional, but I inserted this little, navigation bar just to, again, make it user-friendly for the person, whoever you're creating this for. So ideally, when you create a dashboard, you want to put any information that you feel is important, or at least your boss asks for. And then you also want to always make it user friendly. So again, labeling is important. As you can see, age, you can obviously see this is for this chart, and school level is for the chart down here. And again, just labeling everything so it looks just clean and good. All right, well, thank you for watching my video. Hopefully you got something out of this.